Hey now, we are getting over, and I am the Silver King, Adam Silverstein, here to lead you through these hard times. Dada, with episode 739 of your favorite professional wrestling podcast. That's right, Getting Over is back once again, and it is Friday, so you know exactly what that means, at least over the last 2 weeks. We are here to break down everything that happened across NXT and AEW. For AEW in particular, they had the special Beach Break show, which had no beach theme whatsoever, but that's what it was called on Wednesday night. NXT, of course, is still building for Battleground, which is just a couple weeks away from taking place in Tampa. Now, we do have a ton to discuss on the show, as we always do. Off the top, I just wanted to inform everyone why things have been slightly different here on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. Frankly, a few things are happening in Silver King's life. Number one, work has gotten extremely tough. And while I do love doing the show, that takes priority over everything else when it comes to my content producing life, I guess is the best way to put it. And secondly, I'm trying to get myself a new car. I actually got my mother a car already, Hyundai Kona, very pleased with what we were able to do for her. But I am struggling on a car decision. I want to get an EV. I'm looking at everything from a BMW iX, which frankly I probably will not get. Polestar 3 apparently has a ton of problems. Cadillac Lyric, the Genesis GV70 electrified. I'm going crazy. The car buying process is not an easy one, but with work being crazy busy and Silver King trying to get a car all before, things affect the pricing and manufacturing chain, let's say, here in the United States, there has been a lot of stress on my shoulders. And frankly, with the New York Knicks not closing things out in Game 5 like I expected on Wednesday night, it kind of just took away my ability to watch Dynamite on time. So I was able to finally get that done on Friday morning. Very interesting show, entertaining show, I should say. And now, of course, I'm able to break this all down for you, but I appreciate everyone's patience. My anticipation as of right now is we are back on our normal schedule next week. Okay, we're going to have the WWE show on Tuesday, and I believe what will effectively be your NXT Battleground Ultimate Preview along with our AEW show next Thursday as scheduled. So if you're a longtime listener, we're getting back on it starting next week. But let's get into today's show because we have a ton to talk about, and I don't want to waste any more time. Off the top, allow me to remind you to subscribe to us on YouTube at Getting Overcast. You get full-length audio episodes, full-length video interviews that we conduct with WWE superstars and other wrestling talent. There's already a few posted from 2025. We have a significant docket of names that we've requested and that we're expecting to be speaking with over the coming months, especially throughout the summer. So make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube at Getting Overcast. And please follow us on social media at Getting Overcast on Twitter, at Getting Over on Blue Sky. Now, this show is in two parts, NXT and AEW. There are timestamps in the episode description. As always, I hope you just listen through and hear everything I have to say about both brands. Kicking off with NXT. Myles Bourne opened the show getting chants we didn't get to see or hear last week. For some reason that I cannot explain, he was cutting a promo with an LFG microphone flag. Bourne said he's danced around his disability to this point in his career, but while he's partially deaf and it affects how he speaks, he heard the fans go crazy for him last week. He said he wants to be judged by his ability, not his disability, and he's going to fight for everyone like him at Battleground. Great closing line quote. I might be hard of hearing, but at Battleground, I'll hear Mike Rome announce me as the new NXT champion. Ethan Page interrupted, saying Myles' win was a fluke. The fans chanted, "He can't hear you," which was hysterical. Page mocked him by speaking slowly and challenged him to put his contendership on the line. Charlie Dempsey suggested he do it because iron sharpens iron. At some point, probably when Page entered, the wrong mic flag got switched out, so he was carrying the correct one. Ava ultimately accepted the match. I thought there were powerful words here and a great promo from Bourne. I imagine he was nervous to some degree, but he spoke well, and anytime you can build a legitimate underdog babyface beyond utilizing the size factor, you need to take advantage of that in a smart and respectful way. That was absolutely accomplished here. Page did well threading the needle of acceptability, like retorting and going after Myles' hearing struggles without doing anything that was too incorrect. Dropped the right lines to reference and accentuate it, yet did not necessarily say he was lesser than because he was different. Probably one of the best NXT openers in months because it was fresh and different and therefore captivating. Page is consistently great, not good, great as a heel, and he's exactly what NXT and that audience needs. He's been the best former AEW signing that brand has made to this point, and I said it at the time as well. Also, credit to the NXT audience for quieting down when Myles spoke, which allowed his words to sink in a little bit more. I hope this is just the start of a lot of good things for Bourne in the short and long term. I know him being elevated in this way means a lot to a ton of people, and it's also important for NXT because it's a sink or swim moment for him as a single. But in addition to that, they need to start elevating other men into the main event part of this division because they're still hanging on to like Trick Williams and they're bringing in Joe Hendry to be part of it. And like Ethan Page is still doing it. Javon Evans keeps having matches. We've seen all of these before. Yeah, you can change them and you can do a triple threat or a fatal four-way, but we've seen all of this. You need other people who can step up and challenge for a title. And hopefully Bourne is just the first of many. So we had Obafemi against Dempsey in a non-title match. This stemmed from last week. It immediately succeeded the opener. Femi made quick work of Dempsey, quicker, I should say, than I expected. Oba hit a series of European uppercuts, a huge toss suplex, 3 running Europeans, the lifted toss slam and fall from grace, all in succession to get the win. I was really surprised at the booking. I figured Charlie would be allowed to acquit himself better, just given he's the leader of a faction and a great wrestler. Seemed like a huge wasted opportunity to give Femi something to think about and get Charlie some good TV work as a means of elevating him up to maybe the upper mid-card singles division, something like that. Put him in contention for a North American championship. They just kind of squashed him, which I just didn't like. Ricky Saints confronted Page backstage, basically calling him a dick. Page later shot back that he was going to bring prestige back to the NXT title, and he would deal with Saints at a later date. We had Bourne against Page. This opened hour 2. There was a section of the crowd that did the, not sure what to call it, like the deaf cheer, where you like hold your hands up and wave them. I thought that was pretty cool. Bourne hit an Olympic slam before Page did a real interesting dropkick counter. He escaped Ego's Edge and Twisted Grin, landing a dropkick and flipping over with a jackknife cover for the upset victory. Good on Ethan for putting Myles over in this spot. You knew that was coming. I didn't expect it to be more definitive, but I did hope for a finisher, and we didn't get that. Nevertheless, a quality outing. It worked to give Bourne an opportunity to shine before this major match, the biggest match of his career legitimately, at Battleground. Sean Legacy cut a nice promo in his car saying he felt the passion of the NXT fans last week when he got his opportunity in the Battle Royal. And while he's an independent talent only wrestling on Evolve right now, he wanted to throw out a challenge to Javon Evans as a means of rekindling their magic from that match. We saw Evans watching this on his phone when Ashanti the Adonis tried to butt in. Javon told him mind his own business and worry about his pickup lines, not what he's doing in the ring. Adonis said indie wrestlers don't deserve his time as a stand and deliver main eventer, but Evans said he won't forget where he came from. Saints overheard Adonis saying that he'd smoke both of them, suggesting they actually run that match, with the winner getting a title shot at Battleground. Definitely into this as a triple threat, which was booked for next week. I would like to see what Adonis can do with an actual opportunity to go for an extended period in the ring, because dude's character is on point. All his puns and mannerisms, he really stands out, but they haven't actually allowed him to try and go in the ring and win matches and see if he can get over with the fans. I'm not sure Javon straight up wins this match, but either way, I want to see them go, Javon and Ricky. And obviously we need to get Evans and Legacy run back one-on-one sooner than later. That's going to bang. I got to tell you, I know it's a bad booking for a PLE, but if it was for TV, I would have Adonis win this match, challenge Saints, see what he can actually do, because then you have Javon and Evans and they can fight on their own. You don't necessarily need the title on the line, and you don't need this to be a number one contendership. Plus, you want that singles match between them. So, we'll see what happens. The ending segment of NXT was Paige having attacked Saints backstage, which was somewhat random given Saints spent a portion of the show setting up another potential challenger. The Battleground card is already full, I believe, so I'm not exactly sure when they would run this. Maybe the Tuesday after Battleground. I believe that show might still be in Tampa. So, yeah. So, Stephanie Vaquer was out late in hour 1 saying she respects Jordynne Grace, having been at the top of TNA, now wanting to be at the top of NXT. This was the first time Stephanie actually stumbled on the mic, because what happened is she forgot the English alphabet, and it clearly screwed her up. I actually found that ironic, because the Spanish alphabet is the one thing I still remember frontwards and backwards. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, X, Y, Z. I mean, that's the first thing I learned as a kid in Spanish class. But I guess as an adult, when you're learning a language, and I haven't done one as an adult, you're probably not learning the alphabet first. You're probably just learning vocab words and then trying to figure out verbs and putting it all together. So I get it. Like, I totally understand. For those who are trying to rush Vaquer up to the main roster, this is precisely why she wanted to start in NXT, to work on her English and her promos before going full bore on Raw and SmackDown. There are people who struggle on the main roster who are native English speakers. If you're going to bring someone up and you want them to be a top star in this company, because look, we love Julia, we love Roxanne Perez. I think both of them are going to be champions. And there's a great chance, especially for Perez, because who knows how long Julia is going to be there. Perez, it's crazy to say at her age, but she's probably going to be a WWE Hall of Famer, right? And she has the potential to do everything. But Vaquer has the potential to come in and be a main eventer immediately. And when you bring her up, you want her to be as stout on promos as she possibly can be. And she struggled on Tuesday night. But that's exactly why she's in NXT. So I just wanted to take a little time and point that out for everyone. Fatal Influence, Sans, Jasmine Nix interrupted, excited to see Vaquer's downfall. It got heated between Fallon Henley and JC Jane, but they agreed that they should take her out. Grace came in to protect her investment with the heel saying that they deserve to be at the top because they didn't come in from the outside. They've been holding NXT down and will be the one to take the title. One of them will be the one to take the title, no matter who is champion after Battleground. Messy promo segment, like I said. It was somewhat meant to be that way, given the infighting between the two heels. As I've said before, both of them should already be on the main roster, Fallon especially. So I'm not sure if they're about to get elevated or maybe they're going to get pushed into the main event if Stephanie loses and gets called up right away. I don't know if this was just to fill TV time, but Henley and Jane getting time in the main event division, that's a net positive either way. Nix's absence was curious. A lot of people these days, if someone's not on TV for 1 week, they're rushing, oh, did WWE release them also? I mean, I guess like technically that's possible, but people have family emergencies. They have vacations they want to take. You know, they get minor injuries where they can't be on TV for a week or two or 3 or 4 or 8. I mean, these things happen. So Jasmine not being there, I do wish it was explained. I wasn't that surprised by it. Perhaps Henley and Jane are getting called up and they kind of wanted to sever her as a part of Fatal Influence. That way, when they get called up, people aren't asking, why isn't Jasmine Nix with them? So they get called up and she appears solo on NXT TV a month later, something like that. Just because someone's not on screen one time, you don't have to think they're getting released. That's the point I'm making. So we had Vaquer and Grace against Henley and Jane. This main evented. It was hot right at the bell. Henley had a nice Escalara crossbody to the outside. Jane had a great big boot counter to Vaquer, but Stephanie came back with a top rope head trap super kick. Grace pushed Vaquer out of the way, taking the bullet on a double running knee. She avoided Jane's discus lariat, headbutted Henley out of the ring, and hit beast mode for the win. High quality action here, undoubtedly the match of the night. That was particularly not a great in-ring wrestling show on Tuesday. I went 3.75 stars B+ here. The bigger stars were obviously the right winners, especially given the heels were at odds anyway. Don't have much more to say about this, even if I'd usually pontificate about the women for a while. Hopefully there's a stronger go-home segment next week. But since I forgot to mention it earlier when Stephanie originally came out, yes, Vaquer on Tuesday night.
Gonna look good, but she's got me saying, hey now!
And tangentially related to that, it seems like she's now dating Bourne, which, man, talk about an incredible month for that dude.
It should have been me. It should have been me.
Tatum Paxley threw a fit backstage, destroying her dollhouse, angry that her best friends are gone and she has lost everyone she cares about. Thea Hale and Carmen Petrovic came up with Paxley snapping, saying Thea is a grown-ass woman who must always have a friend, and they always split up just like all friends do. Smart for WWE to lean into this with Tatum, given her entire gimmick has been centered around relationships with other women. But obviously unfortunate that it had to be done, given neither Shotzi nor Gigi Dolan should have actually been released. But it worked, it led to a match, and it contained as much justified logic as you could want. A woman who cares deeply about her friends, getting her heart broken over and over again. The only problem I see is getting people to boo Tatum because she's so damn likable. So we had Hale against Paxley. Tatum hit a cool flip over leg drop, got most of the offense in this match. She escaped a Kimura lock, but ate a kick to the face and a double underhook slam before getting put back in a Kimura. And here I'm sitting, I'm like, are they really going to tap out Tatum here? But Paxley started squeezing Hale's face as a counter, somehow resulting in a disqualification because the idea was that she was eye gouging, except her hands and fingers didn't come anywhere near her eye. Tatum continued doing that after the bell until they got split up. Now, look, I love both of them. I hated this match booking. I actually seem to be in the minority here because even some major Paxley fans I see on social media thought this worked for her. For me, I'm at the point where, look, how about we just let Paxley win an effing match? She's one of the most over women on the entire roster, despite barely being pushed. And you're having her go 50-50 with a 20-year-old who does not need to win, let alone be protected. Now, you can say she showed guts by not tapping to the Kimura, and yeah, that's true. But to what end? So she can lose via disqualification? I'd have much preferred she do the eye gouge hidden from the referee, break the hold, then capitalize and get the win. Just push this woman. Let her win matches, especially over Thea Hale. I simply do not understand Shawn Michaels' hesitation to let this chick go over and become a prominent part of the women's division. You have 2 championships. She should have already been North American champion. She is not even sniffing contention for that title right now. Nearly everyone who watches NXT actively wants Tatum Paxley to be pushed and talks about it weekly. They gotta halt the start and stop bullshit with her. She's one of the best character workers in all of WWE right now. We're talking Chelsea Green level, and she's not being booked like Chelsea Green respectively in NXT. They got to figure this out, and they got to get this shit together for Tatum Paxley. Jada Parker backstage got cut off talking to the TV, trying to drop the Captain Save-A-Ho line, saying she wasn't interested in listening to Kalani Jordan, Zarya, or Sol Ruka bitch at her. Lani was pissed. Zarya speared her through a barricade, suggesting she was either threatened or jealous that Sol caught her. Hold up. Threatened? We're in the middle of a match. Why would she not do what she can to win? What is Lani talking about? Ruka half apologized. Zarya cut her off, saying, hey, I speared you because we were wrestling. It was fair and square.
Thank you!
They decided to run it back with Lani getting a shot at the North American title if she beat Zarya. Sol accepted that, but it upset Zarya. It's always one step forward, 2 steps back with Lani. This promo from her lacked believability. It lacked logic. I actually wish they delved into the jealousy angle of it a little bit more because that actually would be interesting. The booking is fine. Clearly, Lani is going to somehow win, maybe due to Sol accidentally distracting, but they better not take the North American title off of Sol. It stood out Tuesday night that NXT is in the process of losing its top 2 female stars in Julia and Roxanne Perez. But when you talk about this segment, the ones that preceded it, this women's division remains ridiculously stacked. There was an in-office contract signing between Joe Hendry and Trick Williams. Somehow Ava presided over it with no TNA representation there, even though it was about the TNA title. Williams said Hendry did this to himself by getting involved in his business, so he's going to take what means the most to him. Hendry said TNA is the hottest it's been in years because of his championship run. He put over the title being defended on a WWE PLE, and Trick said he knows it's a big deal because he's challenging for the strap, and he's bigger than NXT and TNA combined. Williams said Hendry had his 15 minutes of fame, but Trick's fame goes beyond that. He's going to take his fame, his title, and his brand. Hendry said this may not be the biggest match of Williams' career, but it is the most important because he has no path back to the NXT title, and when Joe wins, his path to the TNA title will go away also. If this was not his singular best promo, it was certainly among Trick's best promos. His lines were on point, the logic was sound, he came across like a natural heel. And while I have not seen Hendry cut that many promos in TNA or really in his entire career, it was the best I've personally seen from him. In fact, it was one of the better contract signings I've seen in quite some time across WWE main roster, NXT, AEW, anywhere. It actually brought some legitimacy and believability to both guys by the time it was over. I actually believe I might be anticipating this match more than either of the NXT title matches on the show. And I'm going into this thinking Trick might actually win the TNA title. Whether that happens remains to be seen, but the way it's being built, it actually feels possible. Hendry and Trick, they're going to be doing dual concerts next week on the Go Home. Could be excellent, given Williams rapped really well on that music video last year. Could also be a disaster. That's what you get when you have on-air wrestling concerts. We will find out next week. Tony D'Angelo fought Wes Lee before the match. Lee cut a promo backstage saying his crew are done patiently waiting for a track to explode on. They were ready to head to the top of NXT. The group is now called the High Rise with a YZ in the middle, kind of like Terror Rising. Made me laugh when I saw that. Fitting, though, given the dude's size, hardly the best name for a group. Tony threw Wes into his boys ringside, then splashed them off the ring apron. Lee talked shit too early, so D'Angelo snuffed him out. Then he countered cardiac kick on the handspring with a spear before Stacks appeared on the Titantron outside Adriana Rizzo's safe house. Wes caught Tony blind with cardiac kick, got the much-needed win despite the circumstances. This was really sloppy, and the pace was extremely weird for the match. I'm not sure why it was done this way exactly. While I know Stacks hates D'Angelo, I'm not sure it makes sense that he's going after the rest of the family who didn't do anything wrong. All he really needs to do is take out Tony, and everyone else should fall in line. That's how it's supposed to work. But I was glad Wes got the win, and at least their group is somewhat established now. They work together. You got to wonder, though, what WWE's long-term plan is with Wes, because he's already been in NXT for like 5 years. He had a great North American title run. They're not going to put the main championship on him. The move has always been a tag team, but his partner is over in TNA with his other partner. So I guess we'll see. D'Angelo sped off with his driver once he recovered from the match. They arrived at the safe house soon enough, but as Tony went to check on Adriana, Stacks caught him running in with a crowbar right to the knee. Stacks called him desperate with no family and no direction, saying he humiliated him by choice and will put an end to the family once and for all at Battleground. This was far, far better than the prior segment we just discussed. Stacks has definitely got something on his own. Curious to see that direction and how they go with this, but gotta assume D'Angelo is going out on his back and getting called up. What's weird is this match doesn't have a stipulation. It absolutely needs one. And then on top of that, if Stacks wins, is he going to start his own family? Because if you take down a Mafia Don, someone needs to step up. But you've already taken out the consigliere, and you've already taken out the, I don't know what you would call Rizzo. Let's just say the top woman in the group. All the other extra dudes are literally just extras who work in Orlando or maybe around NXT. So if Stacks does take out D'Angelo, what is he? And that I'm still wondering. I don't understand. And by the way, we haven't seen Dark State on TV in weeks, or at least this week we didn't see them. So I don't know what's happening with them. My guess is they're being held off from everything. That way, when they come back, they're going to make a major impact either for Trick or Javon or Oba, or, I mean, if they're not going to add a leader, I'm not saying they're dead, because I've been spending time on this show explaining that I actually like Dark State. But it feels like they're kind of dragging their feet because there's a major impactful moment that is going to land. But there's no teases that moment is actually coming. So I'm a little confused. Hank and Tank backstage told Josh Briggs they feel for him. Briggs said he didn't want to lose Yoshiki Inamura, as he mentioned, and they became close in Japan, but he felt like he pushed him away. Sean Spears came in twisting the knife on behalf of Brooks Jensen, saying Briggs is a cancer when it comes to relationships. So Briggs basically suggested a match. I'm more interested in Briggs and Spears than running Briggs and Jensen. So I'm glad there wasn't a delay moving forward with Josh as a singles competitor. Time to give him a true opportunity to shine because he has all the tools. He really should go over Spears. If not, then it might be him and Hank and Tank feuding with the Culling as a trio, which I guess could work for the short term. But Briggs really should be getting elevated and moved into that, mid-card for the men's division, going after Saints in the North American Championship sooner than later. Out the Mud got another promo package. First frame was them stepping through a puddle in clean white shoes, which they would never do, just frankly. Anyway, they talked about their strength and struggles, saying the rest of the division will either sink or swim against them. I loved this presentation. I hope they've improved in the ring. If so, the tag team division is going to be hugely better for it. Chase U backstage found Ava saying they want to put the university back on the map with a debut tag team match next week. When Ava explained it would be OTM, Andre Chase got pissed off. Those dudes are about to get squashed. And lastly, The Undertaker and Bubba Ray Dudley backstage congratulated Tyra May Steele and Zayna Sterling for earning the right to compete in the finals of LFG in Madison Square Garden, though only one of them will get an NXT contract. Clearly, he means the theater at Madison Square Garden, and this was pre-taped a while back. Izzy Dame, Nikita Lyons, Lash Legend, and Lola Vice surrounded these two women, and there were more even in the background. Basically, they were trying to intimidate them. I guess I need to catch up on this show. I'm a few episodes behind. I didn't know they were like near a finals or anything like that. But the half of the season I have watched so far, I have enjoyed. So I'm looking forward to doing it. I'll probably knock LFG out this week and discuss it in this space next week. The idea of only handing out one NXT contract, though, is silly. It should be like a contract and a title shot or something, because clearly more than two people from LFG are going to be making Tuesday nights. So if you're having them compete for a contract, but 5 of them show up or 10 of them show up eventually, then what was the competition actually about? That's why I think it should be for a title shot or something like that. But again, LFG, I immensely enjoy. My plan is to catch up on it this week. I did not have an opportunity to watch Evolve before taping this show. So next week, we'll probably discuss 2 episodes of Evolve. So it'll be both of those, your NXT Battleground Ultimate Preview, AEW Collision, and Dynamite, all next week. But this week, it is time for us to transition to AEW Dynamite Beach Break. Before we do that, here on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast, allow me to remind you that this show
It's all about Defy.
So head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify, leave a 5-star rating on Apple. Take a little extra time, leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read that right here on the show. But please, if you're a Spotify listener, it takes less than 5 seconds. Just click the 5 stars. That's all I'm asking. Also, do not forget,
I happen to love the number 5.
and I hope you do as well, because for $5 a month, $50 for the entire year, you can become an official Getting Overhead. Just visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Sign up. You'll get bonus audio, the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reactions to every major show, and exclusive news analysis every week. Again, you can get it at buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Okay, talking AEW Dynamite Beach Break. Just as a reminder, we talked about Collision last week, which was smart in retrospect because it actually gave us more room to spend time talking about a loaded Dynamite. I also don't need to mention which show stuff occurred on, which is great because it's just so much easier to talk about one show on its own. In terms of match relevancy this week, I believe there were 5 on the show. Only 1 was not relevant. So 4 out of 5, 80%, a great number. Dynamite usually hits around 65 to 85% naturally. It's Collision that drags those numbers down. But again, we're only talking about Dynamite. So for every match but one to have specific relevance, and the other one still was relevant, but just wasn't storyline relevant, great. And it made for a better show. Let's start where Dynamite ended. The AEW Championship was on the line. Jon Moxley defending against Samoa Joe inside a steel cage. Given this was the world title match with the stipulation in the main event of a special show, the absolute lack of meaningful build during Dynamite itself was ridiculous, at least as far as I was concerned. Mox, bladed, full crimson mask, including blood dripping from his face while Joe had a crossface locked in. This resulted in a rope break, which seemed weird, but it is part of the actual rules because submissions were being enforced. Mox locked in the bulldog choke. AEW actually did the arm raise, which elicited a pop, and we talk about that all the time on this show. They got to bring the arm raise back in professional wrestling. I'm glad they did it here. Paradigm Shift was a false finish. Claudio Castagnoli tried climbing the cage during Coquina Clutch. That led to a break with Willow eating the fall from Claudio when he got knocked off of the cage. Powerhouse Hobbs murked Wheeler Yuta into a ringside table with a Uranagi. And then, randomly, Gabe Kidd from New Japan threw the briefcase into the ring with Moxley landing it on Joe for the 1-2-3 to retain the title.
Well, that was a great matchup, but the ending sucked.
It is every single time with these Death Rider segments and Mox title matches. No matter how good it looks like it's going to be, it ends with a whimper. Nothing could be done but laugh at the finish. Just from the general decision to the production where Excalibur is screaming, "Oh my God, it's Gabe Kidd." But the camera is not even on, dude. It's a wide shot of the ring, so you're not even seeing his face. Again, I couldn't help but laugh. A B grade, 3.25 stars for this. I'm only grading it so you understand like where my head was. I was going higher. I was going to be a B plus, maybe an A by the time this was over. Like if this was 10 more minutes of wrestling, it could have been an A match. They were putting in work, but it shortened because they had post-match, and this was the finish. And for all that build with Samoa Joe, it was ridiculous. Now, again, more happened in the post-match. The heels destroyed the faces ringside. The Young Bucks then came out to shake Mox's hand. Kenny Omega briefly saved, but he got taken out and thrown into the ring by Kazuchika Okada. The Bucks manually lowered what had been a pulled-up cage. We barely and briefly saw Speedball Mike Bailey hitting his karate kicks to chase Okada to the back, which just looked ridiculous. Everyone else beat up Joe and Omega. Hobbs wasn't even in the ring. I guess because if he was, he would have just torn people apart, right? Swerve Strickland then came out and methodically climbed to the top of the cage. Every single heel is watching him. So what do? Despite being separate across the ring, they all gather directly underneath him for no reason whatsoever and take a splash. So now you have Swerve. He's the only healthy baby face in the ring, even though he just took a huge jump. Yet the heels don't attack him. They take 30 seconds to raise the cage and then all run away. Let me repeat. The odds at this juncture were literally 7-1. Omega and Joe, they're dead on the canvas. Swerve is standing in the middle. There's 7 heels around him. And instead of murdering him, they raise the cage and run away. So after all the heels dip out, Swerve challenges for Anarchy in the arena, including the women. The match booking is great. I'm looking forward to it. That alone might get me to buy the pay-per-view. But the level to which this was convoluted creatively with the Bucks joining the Riders for no actual reason, despite multiple TV segments that have tiptoed around it, kids showing up literally for no reason, I presume filling in for Pac, again, since he's never available. According to a few of you who still watch New Japan, this makes even less sense given his recent work there, but I can't speak to that. Then you have Okada, who should be in this match because he's in the Elite and feuding with Omega, seemingly is not in the match. He's going to fight Speedball, but maybe he is in the match. You know the title isn't changing because Okada Omega is happening if Okada does defend against Speedball I'm talking about. Why is Kenny in this match from a protection standpoint? Shouldn't the goal be to keep he and Okada as healthy as possible for All In? I guess Shibata might come back and join because he's on the face side and he can work with Kid because maybe they have something going on in New Japan. I really like Dynamite on Wednesday. And I really liked this match until the finish and the post-match. They cannot get out of their way when it comes to booking logic. And I saw fans loving this and going crazy because it's chaos for chaos' sake. And I mean, there's something to be said for that. Like when we get to Anarchy in the arena, that match is going to be ridiculous, insane, wild. And I can't wait to watch it. But I still want more logic and storytelling and less convolution. And when you have the writers who don't want to team with the Bucks, except they have a meeting and now they do, but we don't see what happened in the meeting or know what was said. And then you have Swerve take these guys out and they're all afraid of him 7-on-1. It's weak and it's rough. Now let's flip the script and talk about not only a great match, but great storytelling as well. Will Ospreay and Hangman Page fought Konosuke Takeshita and Josh Alexander. This opened the show. There was a babyface tension that was felt throughout the entire match, and there was plenty of one-upsmanship as well between the two faces. That was effective because it built to their Owens final match. There were some great tag team offensive situations put together by the heels, including a perfect assisted Tope Con Hero that more wrestlers actually need to employ. Ospreay hit an awesome handspring double kick and a standing sky twister. The faces combined for a sky twister and moonsault ringside. The heels delivered brainbuster and poison rana. Ospreay hit his springboard signatures. Ospreay and Hangman nearly each hit each other with their own finishers because Alexander kept ducking out of the way. But after a head nod, they combined for a perfectly timed tandem buckshot lariat hidden blade to get the win. My top takeaway from this match is that I love Takeshita and Alexander as a team. Given they're unlikely to challenge for those titles anytime soon, linking with Kyle Fletcher or another Don Callis family member, going after the trio straps, that would go a long way to getting a lot of talented wrestlers featured on major shows that are coming up. In some ways, I wish they won this match, just given all the dissension between the babyfaces. But when you have two finalists for a tournament, one of whom is going to be a number one contender for a title, and they're huge babyfaces and they're teaming up, you don't want to beat either of them. So the booking did make sense here. I should also mention that Hangman himself is a great tag team wrestler. He works incredibly well, no matter who he partners with. Ospreay and Page went face-to-face after the bell. Takeshita used that opportunity to did a pump knee on one of them into the other, smushing their faces together and bloodying Ospreay's nose. He went after both heels before accidentally slugging Page, who thought that Will did it on purpose, and Will obviously thought that he was one of them. Outside of the segments where AEW is 100% focused on storytelling, this was probably some of the best storytelling they've done within a match in a long time. I'm at 4 stars A- for the bout itself. Straight up, for my taste, it was one of the best TV openers they have put together, not just in 2025, but maybe since the start of 2024. Match relevance, great action, storytelling, high quality talent, completely sensible post-match. They nailed this. This was the best segment on the entire show. MJF cut a promo backstage about the landscape changing since he lost the AEW title because the roster is more stacked and elite than ever. His contention was that he doesn't want to wrestle unless he knows he can win, and being part of Hurt Syndicate will guarantee his next championship. Renee then asked if he considered what might happen if they say no. And that led Syndicate out there to basically intimidate him like fraternity brothers would do to a prospective member that they were planning to accept anyway. They make you think that they're not going to accept you, and then they ultimately do. So it was very clear what was going to happen based on that segment. But if you've never been in that situation, then perhaps you've never known something like that. But this was good. Hurt Syndicate squashed Top Flight in an eliminator match. Dante Martin cut a fiery promo on MJF with his brother focused on the tag team titles. Dustin Rhodes then came in, basically quoting Metallica's Fuel, saying they would be watching. Random, I guess, fight maybe goes after the ROH tag team titles and maybe wins them. I didn't understand why they even got this match in the first place. I guess it being another eliminator made sense, but we've had far too many of those on TV recently. The ROH champions came out angry at Bobby Lashley keeping the Hurt Lock in after the bell, saying it was obvious they wanted the titles. Why is that obvious? They haven't even been on television. Dustin hasn't wrestled since February, and the titles haven't been relevant since last September. Did you realize they've been champions for 9 months? Because I didn't. That's wild. Crew then came out and literally got zero reaction. Leo Rush tried to refer to his old WWE business involving Lashley, but he wasn't specific enough in any way for fans to get it. He wanted a title match out of respect for their past. What? Why would that get them a title match? MVP decided they could fight for a number 1 contendership. Why? All Crew has done is beat Flight, which got squashed. Dustin and Sammy Guevara have done nothing to deserve anything other than already being champions of a brand that is only occasionally mentioned on TV. This was straight up awful. And for all of AEW's improvements across the men's division, the women's division, the tag team division remains absolute dog shit.
That is one big pile of shit.
MVP literally threw to commercial break here, which I saw bothered some people. I didn't mind it. I thought it broke the fourth wall in a fun manner. MJF entered after the bell, or after the break, I should say, to get what MVP said he deserved. Shelton Benjamin had to run to the back and get to gorilla position just to find MJF. He was hiding behind Tony Khan, who put himself on TV again. Lashley put his arm around MJF once he finally had gotten to the ring. He teased his vote. Ultimately, he went thumbs up. Max jumped into his arms for a hug. He got thrown down. Max started chanting, "We hurt people." He expressed relief as MVP announced a contract signing next week, and the rest of the guys hugged him. MJF backstage was really excited about joining. He brought in Mark Sterling as his lawyer for the signing. MVP didn't like that. MJF pointed out, dude, you would never sign a contract without a lawyer. And MVP was like, yeah, that's true. Well, yeah, so why were you upset about it, dude? Fun segments, the weekly storytelling here, it's doing well to keep fans engaged. It has dragged out a couple weeks longer than necessary. It absolutely has Owen Hart and Nation of Domination energy, not due to race, but MJF coming across like a little brother to these other guys who are physically bigger than him as well. It's ultimately going to be interesting to see how long this runs and what the end goal winds up being, kind of putting them all together. For now, this is undoubtedly hitting with fans. Hell, now that I think about it, maybe this ends as soon as next week. The contract signing is an opportunity to do a surprise where Max's name is not actually on the contract. This could be a way they bring in Cedric Alexander if those fences have been mended between his family and Tony Khan. It could also be someone else joining Hurt Syndicate that is already on the AEW roster. MJF then could create a group of his own to go after them. There's a lot of options here. But if you have Syndicate do that, let's say, with Alexander or another member of the roster, that would be a heel move. Except their babyfaces and MJF is the heel, but MJF's getting cheered recently. So then if MJF created his own crew, let's say brought Pinnacle back together as an example, would they be the heels or faces? So that part of it I'm kind of confused about. But it does feel like when this contract signing transpires, the way it's going to happen is Sterling comes out, hey, I never got the contract. I haven't been able to review it. And then they say, well, we wanted Max to see it first. They open it up. Instead of, Maxwell Jacob Friedman, it says Cedric Alexander or again, someone else. And then he gets attacked and it goes down that way. That's my guess. We'll see what happens. Toni Storm fought Mina Shirakawa, Sky Blue, and Azumi in an eliminator match. I didn't realize AZM was Azumi, so lesson learned by me. To set the scene here, this was the 5th straight eliminator match for Storm against a total of 10 opponents. Only 2 of them, Shirakawa here and Thunder Rosa previously, were actually deserving of such opportunities. Sky got this in a return match after having not wrestled for 10 months. Why? Azumi isn't even on the roster. Mina just signed with AEW, but has notable wins previously. That's why I know she deserved it. Blue had a refreshed look. It actually worked for her. Looked great. Mina came out to new music that was so awful. Tony actually changed it before the show ended and told fans that he changed it on purpose. Like, not that he picked a bad theme initially, but that he recognized fans didn't like it and went back to her old one, which sounds like a theme from Fast and the Furious, by the way. I've said that before, but he did it on purpose at the end. So good move. AEW is different than WWE when it comes to music rights, but it goes to show how important this stuff is when fans roundly reject something, and how ridiculous it is that WWE has such poor entrance music. I digress. In terms of the match, Azumi hit a great Canadian Destroyer on Blue. Then she took Storm Zero for a broken fall. Shirakawa ultimately reversed a small package and pinned Storm. There was literally a title match graphic for Double or Nothing 15 seconds after the bell. This is AEW dumb shit again. Strongly disliked the finish here. Now, I didn't mind that it was a small package, but as always,
to beat the champion, to be able to beat the champion. That doesn't make any sense.
This was particularly weak in a 4-way situation where you could have avoided beating Storm and Shirakawa would still have become number 1 contender. But in reality, a 4-way eliminator, that doesn't even make sense in its own right because the champion is involved. If it was a 4-way number 1 contendership and she wasn't there, this would have made sense. But you're pinning her and then she's becoming number 1 contender. It's just convoluted from the start. Really, eliminator matches should be one-on-one. You're fighting the champion, and if you beat them, you get a title shot. Like, we don't like that necessarily, but at least it makes sense. In a 4-way like this, you could have had Shirakawa beat Sky and get the number 1 contendership, and it would have been completely legitimate, but they had her beat Storm unnecessarily. It's pretty much what I'm trying to say. Now, you may say, well, she beat Storm, so that raises her profile. Her profile was already raised. She didn't need to beat her. Again, I just thought it was convoluted. We know Mina's not winning the title at Double or Nothing. So, like, what was the purpose, really? Now, it appears maybe Mariah May might be returning to TV. She tweeted something about being uncaged, and the picture that she had a Collision logo on it. So maybe that's going to restart, despite them having their swan song. If you remember last week or 2 weeks ago, I was patient to let this all play out in the women's division. But it's pretty clear that AEW was putting a lot of effort into a couple of the men's storylines and also Mercedes Moné and Jamie Hayter. And they just kind of threw their hands up at what to do with Toni, despite her being the most over person on the roster, or one of the most over people on the roster. Not being able to capitalize on Storm with a huge feud coming out of both the May feud and the Megan Bayne feud, it is simply ridiculous. Now, speaking of Mercedes, she attacked Azumi after the bell put her in statement maker. AEW did explain to us before the match that Azumi took one of Mercedes' titles without pinning her in a multi-person match. I believe for Stardom, it might have been New Japan, but I think it was Stardom. So Monet was angry about that. Jamie Hayter saved and beat down Mercedes, but got pulled off before she could hit Haterade. Jamie looked better here because she wasn't wearing all brown and orange. This was actually the best look Mercedes has given us in AEW to date. I loved her hair for whatever that's worth to you, but I thought it was like different and down and unique. The Mercedes Hayter match, it's way more interesting than the Storm deal, and I think it's actively affecting the quality of Tony's booking. Taz got the opportunity to do a brief on-air eulogy for Sabu, which was immensely touching. I actually wish it had gone longer, but I get why it didn't. Nigel McGuinness and Tony Schiavone were in the ring. Kill me. Calling out Daniel Garcia. Nigel apologized for a collision. Danny said it was unnecessary, but since he also wanted to fight FTR, they should do it together and team up. Stoke came out talking shit. Nigel pointed out FTR are acclaimed former champions and will probably kill them if they team up. Yeah, that's true. Garcia didn't care. He said, they're a tag team people never thought they would see. Well, you know why people never thought they would see them as a team? Because no one's ever thought about them being a tag team, because it's not a dream team in any way. Stoke talked some more shit to them. He mentioned hepatitis. Daddy Magic saved with a crowbar to prevent a pile driver after FTR had hit Shatter Machine on Garcia, and Nigel went down with one punch. This was an awful segment from start to finish. Keep the shit on Collision, please. At least it's an actual non-title story. I'll give them credit for that, but man, I am completely uninterested. Ricochet beat Zach Gowen in 7 minutes. He wrestled on one leg since Ricochet carried his limb to the ring like a trophy. Gowen kicked out of a springboard moonsault, shooting star press, and vertigo. So Ricochet, who had yet to hit his finisher, grabbed his scissors. Gowen nailed him with his limb for a near fall, then missed a lariat and ate a spirit gun for the 1-2-3. Mark Briscoe saved Gowen after Ricochet hit him a couple times after the bell. Ricochet was the right winner, thankfully. I'm glad they didn't have Gowen win. He acquitted himself nicely for a guy who hasn't wrestled in a long time. He really worked hard, so credit where it's due. When I don't watch matches live, I check Cage Match for match times because it's a great resource for research. The way you know you cannot trust their ratings whatsoever is that this got the equivalent of like 3.5 stars, whereas Gunther and Pat McAfee got 2.25. This match was literally nothing. And ultimately, I wish we got this segment from last week, and this match never happened. Ricochet trying a figure four with Zach only having one leg. That was hysterical. It was the highlight of the entire deal, but you also could have done that last week. So the match was shit, but the booking from last week, the confrontation and the beatdown, that was solid. Best way I can end it here. Now, look, since we didn't have Evolve or Collision to discuss this week, let's talk ratings briefly on the way out. And let's actually start with AEW because they're the ones who made news. After hovering around 629,000 viewers the last 2 weeks, AEW went up to 682,000 viewers with a 0.17 demo this week for Dynamite. Despite going against the NBA playoffs, they got their biggest viewership number in 9 months, dating back to September 2024, and that is great for them. The goal now is going to be maintaining it. But for 1 week against that kind of competition, that is clear improvement. And it's happening because they've been putting on better TV with more consistent storytelling over the last few months. Now, I do want to make something crystal clear. Since we don't really discuss it here, you probably saw a claim a few months ago that Dynamite is doing 500,000 viewers weekly on Max. I discussed this at length on buymeacoffee.com/gettingover a couple months ago, but that is simply not true. The only way it could be true is if you believe AEW went from 600,000 viewers, sometimes less, per week in December 2024 without Max to 1.2 million viewers in 5 months. I think everyone listening is smart enough to understand that's simply not possible. If their popularity had more than doubled, AEW would not be struggling to sell 4,000 seats per TV taping. So let's use some reason. Do they probably add another 50, 75,000 viewers on Max? Yeah, maybe. That might be high, but maybe. And that means that their numbers we're seeing on TV are actually better than they have been for the last, 5 months or so. But have they more than doubled their viewership in 5 months, going from, 600,000 to 1.2 million? No, they haven't. Sorry. As far as NXT the last few weeks, it's been steady enough against the NBA, just under 700,000 with a 0.15 demo, but it's not hitting that 750,000 viewership or higher. They were hitting high 800s in January, kind of in March as well, 750 in March. The product is getting stale, and that's partially the reason. But sports competition has always affected WWE more than AEW because the AEW audience is much more hardcore. Maybe it will bounce back into the sevens after the playoffs, but these are certainly not bad numbers. They're still vastly exceeding the expectations of the CW. But what's notable, the reason I bring this up, is AEW actually beat NXT in the head-to-head in viewership this week for the first time in a long time. Just again, on Wednesday versus Tuesday. I even hate using the term beat because they don't go head-to-head. They're going against different audiences and different competition. But when you compare the numbers, did more people watch on Tuesday or more people watch on Wednesday? NXT had more people watch on Wednesday for multiple months now. NXT had more people watch on Tuesday for multiple months now. AEW this week eclipsed them. So it's the first time all year, if memory serves. It might be the first time in like 6, 7, 8 months, dating back to 2024. Either way, what it speaks to is a successful show from AEW on Wednesday night. It was entertaining. It was better than it had been the last couple of weeks. Still not as great as some of those shows going into the last pay-per-view, but nevertheless, Dynamite, a huge improvement over the last 3 months compared to the first 2 months of 2025. So that allows us to wrap up this edition of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. Let me first remind, we're going to be back on Tuesday talking all things WWE, and then we will be back on Thursday talking NXT and AEW. On the way out, please remember that here at Getting Over,
it's all about
Defied.
So head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify, leave a 5-star rating on Apple, take a little extra time, leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. Subscribe to us on YouTube at Getting Overcast. Follow us on social media at Getting Overcast on Twitter, at Getting Over on Blue Sky. And don't forget to send in questions and comments for the show because we will read those live on the air. And lastly, don't forget,
I happen to love the number 5.
Hope you do as well. $5 a month, $50 for the entire year. You can become an official Getting Overhead. Just visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Sign up. You'll get bonus audio, the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reactions to every major show, and exclusive news analysis every week. Again, that is buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Thanks again for listening to this edition of the Getting Over Wrestling Podcast. This is the Silver King, Adam Silverstein, signing off and leaving you with just 3 final words. Bye for now.